Welcome to Masters of the Air this week when we discuss what if we'd have had B-52s. Okay, it's Monday Night Therapy. I got to get over here to the comments section. And, there you go. That's how I started, Todd.
Yeah, I was kind of thrown for a minute there. That is, by the way, a wonderful show. I mean,
it's gotten better as they've gone on.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. To say I enjoy it, yeah, nobody enjoys some of that stuff, but it's very well done. Very well done.
It's okay. It's fictional. This is fictional.
There you go.
Maybe it portrays real events, but it's fictional. Linda Wilkins says right off the bat, good evening, John and Todd. The other thing I wanted to mention is the theme song for this, it really never gets old.
No, I like it. I'm bouncing.
And I am trying to put one together for the softball show they're going to start, and I'm trying to pick the right music because I figured they're going to have to listen to it 400 times if they do this right. So, because we only have one chance at an intro. That's it. You can never change it. Okay. Nebraska. Should we just go right into Nebraska sports? Just you could zoom.
Well, I think that's why we're here.
Is it?
Well, generally speaking, to talk about Nebraska.
I had in my notes that we were going to discuss the difference between the 56 and 57 Chevy.
Well, geez Louise, John, it's kind of like fins or no fins, and what do you want? What do you want?
Linda Wilkins says, hey, John, why does the intro slide say from old men? Well, I think that fits. It could say crusty. That'd probably fit too.
Crusty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This weekend, both basketball teams stomped the crap out of their Minnesota counterparts. Yep. I don't pay close attention to women's basketball, but men's basketball, actually, it was not, how do I put this? It wasn't that fun a game. We just kind of stomped them and then just kept stomping them. And they had a little bit of a surge maybe one time, and then we just beat them back down.
It was just kind of a matter-of-fact game,
It was.
It was one team that was playing really well and the other team wasn't playing so good. And, not a lot of excitement, but boy, it was definitely a convincing win. And I watched the game, and I'm enjoying watching Nebraska play well. I watched the game on Tuesday night. They finally won a road game against Indiana, and they pounded Indiana too. So that's really positive for the basketball team. I think they got 3 games left. They're on the road at Ohio State, then they're home with Rutgers, and then they play Michigan on the road again. Now that they've broken that can't win on the road jinx, hopefully they can get a couple of wins here in the last 3 games. So to finish the season strong, they're 20-8. 20-8.
20-8.
That's
I
not
wanted to go.
At this point.
After every game, the athletic department sends out notes, and I wanted to go through these, but my email, everything is screwed up. I put these in the show notes, not our show notes, but the description on YouTube. Good grief. For some reason, the index is off on my email. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, the women's team, let's kind of talk about them for a few minutes here too. I listened to the women's game on my drive back north, and I'll tell you what really struck me, and I have never been to a big time college senior day, and the little ceremony they had after. The women kicked the snot out of Minnesota too, and there were 4 seniors this year, and just listening to the announcer, the MC, and the introductions, and apparently they had little statements from each of the players and Coach Williams that were probably on the video screen or whatever. It was really pretty emotional, and I think Nebraska fans are really going to miss Jazz Shelley, and what a gem she's been for the program. And then that little Darian White that transferred from Montana State. She was a 3-time Big Sky? Yeah, Big Sky Conference, first team all conference player and 2-time defensive player of the year. She comes to Nebraska and has been a little bit of a difference maker. So, all of that's great. They've got one game left against Illinois. From what I understand, if they beat Illinois, game's on the road. If they beat Illinois, they are in 4th place. And that's really important for the Big Ten tournament because the top 4 teams get what they call the double bye. And, just to save some wear and tear and play one game less than some of the other teams would have to, I think that would certainly benefit them. So good weekend of basketball.
It was a good weekend of basketball. The other thing that happened was the football team came in at halftime and had a dunk contest. And I got a text from a friend of mine this morning, and he said that the news talked about basketball for 10 seconds and then did a 30-second bit on the Nebraska football team doing the dunk contest at halftime.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Aaron Rostovsky says football did a contest. Football dunk contest was the highlight. I think a lot of people would probably agree with you, Aaron. I saw some clips. I think student athletes right now, if they're paying any attention, I think they got to believe that Nebraska is kind of an attractive place to go to school. I think, there's a strong sense of camaraderie among the athletes in different sports. It's fun, and it seems to be a fun place to be. What struck me about the highlights were a couple of things. First of all, the fact that the head football coach would allow his players to participate in a dunk contest. I mean, so many of the head coaches, particularly in football and basketball, are absolute control freaks. And, there's a lot of football coaches that if that idea was brought up to them, they'd say, no way, you're not going to do that. Whether out of fear of injury or whatever it might be. But what added to kind of the excitement was Emmett Johnson. He decided he was going to try to dunk over Coach Rule. So he's positioning Coach Rule out there with his, Coach Rule facing the basket and his back to Emmett, and Emmett's trying to go over the top of him. He didn't make it all the way over the top of him, but Coach Rule's out there and he's with his boys, and he's all in with Nebraska. Fred Sacco says, I was surprised they let Fedoni do the dunk contest. I mean, Jesus, protect the guy, for crying out loud. There you go, Fred. That's the flip side of the whole thing too. I didn't know if I didn't see much of it. I just saw the clip. But no, it's a little troubling that Fedoni might have been out there.
My cardiologist says, Todd, that this should be a T-shirt. There is an inherent risk in life. And you can't just go around not living life because you might be afraid that something's going to happen. You just can't do that. That's no way to live. The thing that struck me about the guys doing a dunk contest at the basketball game is, that popped back up. When was the last time you saw this kind of stuff? I mean, we have different athletes showing up at different athletes' events. I mean, the whole athletic department looks like they're all together. They're not separated into little compartments of we're football, we're better than everybody else, and it just seems like this whole athletic department is like a moving plasma in one direction, like they're rowing a boat together or something. Maybe somebody should.
Oh, there's a slogan for you. We
can come up with our own.
No, I agree with you. I think it's great. And, you know, there have been a bunch of football players, and, you know, I think they were swimmers that came and watched Nash Hutmacher's first wrestling match. And, you know, I know that there have been others there as well. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that they're out, you know, supporting each other and all for one for all, that type of thing. It's important. Here, just so we can get this one out of the way, Linda Wilkins says, "Hey, Todd, what are you drinking tonight?" I am drinking another New Glarus Spotted Cow. I'm getting towards the end of my supply. I was in Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago and did not load up. So I know I did bad. But then I also blew it driving back from Texas this weekend. I should have stopped in Kansas and got some Yingling. I just wasn't thinking. So I might have to resort to some other flavors here pretty soon.
Okay. Basketball notes. They send out notes at the end, you know, after the games are over, every game of listen, the athletic departments across the nation provide so much notes and so much info and everything. Anybody could be a sports writer. I swear to God, they just pump information at you, and it's kind of cool. But there, I just took a shot at all the media people on the planet. Okay, Nebraska. Here's from the Nebraska men's basketball. Nebraska improved to 20-8 on the season, matching its best 28-game start in the Big Ten era. It's the 7th time in school history Nebraska has won 20 or more games in the regular season. How about that? Going all the way back to 1919 and 1920. Nebraska tied a school record with a 17th home win, which has been done 3 other times in school history. Nebraska is 17-1 in Pinnacle Bank this weekend. One Big Ten game, making only the 3rd time since joining the Big Ten that we've done that. And here's the key stat. Where to go? Nebraska has won 4 straight Big Ten games by at least 15 points, including tonight's 18-point victory. This marks the first time Nebraska has won 4 straight conference games by 15 or more points since winning 4 straight Missouri Valley Conference games by at least 15 points in 1911 and 1912. So, well, you know, maybe we are having a historic season.
Well, it's sure been fun to watch when they play well. And, you know, yeah, frustrating as heck when they lose all those games on the road. And, you know, they beat they beat Purdue, they beat Wisconsin, you know, and then they turn around and fall flat on their face the next games. So that part of it's frustrating, but hopefully they've got it figured out now. You know, Coach Hoiberg has done an outstanding job, in my opinion, but, you know, I'm biased. I've been a Hoiberg fan forever. You know, it's kind of funny seeing the little clips on Twitter with him doing his little dances in the locker room after games. I was having a conversation last week with a good friend of mine who's big time college basketball guy. He was actually a student manager when Nolan Richardson was coaching back in the day at Tulsa. And he's also a big-time Iowa State guy. And we were watching Hoiberg on Tuesday night. You think Hoiberg can still dunk? I'll bet he can still dunk. We know he can still shoot. I mean, you know, he won some big free throw shooting contest a few years back. But you think he could still dunk?
You know, he looks pretty good. Maybe he should have gotten out there and dunked over the top of Matt Rule.
Well, that would have been kind of cool.
It would have been unique.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's put this one up. It has something to do with the dunks.
Okay.
And I missed it earlier on. James Boardman says, we were cheated on Hoiberg's final dunk. He was going to have Bergen Riley set the ball, but he was a little. Now, that would have been cool. That would have been cool if you'd have had Bergen Riley out there. You know, and then you could have had he could have Hoiberg's sweetie underneath the basket, and as soon as the ball came through, she could have just pounded it. That would have been kind of cool too.
Clay Castleholder asks, are we a lock to make the tournament? I mean, nobody's really a lock unless you're like a conference leader. But it astonishes me how much people are still talking about how we're probably on the bubble or something. Nebraska's had no bad losses, and we've had some good quad 1 and 2 wins. I don't get, if we were Michigan State, nobody'd be even talking about this. It wouldn't even be a question. You know what the difference is? Right now, Nebraska is in the NCAA tournament, barring like a complete meltdown, which they've got so many players. I don't see how that happens. We should be asking, is Michigan State really a tournament team? Are they? Because they sure as hell don't look like it. You see how that conversation goes? Basketball people, they just, it's the same shit we do in football where, Texas, we rank them every year. Nebraska used to get ranked every year, but it's the usual suspects.
You could extrapolate that out because earlier this season, Kansas was, like a top 4 or 5 team or something like that. They dropped 3 games in a row. They were beaten 3 games in a row. West Virginia beat them. Iowa State beat them. Somebody else beat them. And they still stayed in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because they're Kansas.
Right.
And that's garbage. I would hope that Nebraska is not on the bubble. But, the last prediction I saw, they had them at a 10 seed. A 10 seed? If they're 5th in the Big Ten Conference, I would think that they'd get a little better than, they're not a top 5 seed, but
maybe it's a matter. Here's the thing. Nebraska, let's say right now Nebraska's a 10 seed, and the rest of these games are to see if they can make it up to a 7, 6, something, 5, 4.
Here's a question I'd like to have an answer to. Linda Wilkins asked, John, is that why you went to college, for the camaraderie, or was it for the beer and women?
Isn't that the same thing?
I kind of thought it was, but
Linda, what's the difference there? I thought camaraderie was the beer and women. What the hell?
Oh, heck.
But Linda, the answer is yes. Yes.
David Batney says one word: leadership. Something lacking under our former head coach. I think that's in reference to Coach Rule and the way that he's handling things up until this point.
Well, it's, what? I don't think it's just Matt Rule.
No, I think it goes deeper than him.
I think that it's the presence of a guy who doesn't have to. His presence isn't just dominating everything. That Matt Rule doesn't have to just dominate everything. And from everything you heard about the other guy, he had to have everything his way, even though he sucked at everything, including, removing people from the athletic department he didn't like and shit like that. So I think it is a huge, huge difference. And it makes a difference. You know what else happened? What else happened this weekend, Todd? Men's track and field finished 2nd in the Big Ten.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, I don't know much about track and field, but I think if Nebraska's men's track and field can beat, you think about the Big Ten. Who has a lower enrollment and population base than Nebraska?
Well,
maybe
there's
Northwestern.
Some truth to that. But Nebraska's always been competitive in track and field. Now they've got, in addition to the throwers and the jumpers, they got some sprinters that are going to score some points.
What else happened? Oh, Nebraska women, they finished 8th. Let's see. I made notes before this show. It's a rare event where I was actually organized, and Todd fainted, and I had to yell at him to wake up before the show. How did wrestling do, Todd? It was their last duel.
Wrestling had their last duel of the season. They went down to Arizona State and they won convincingly. They lost. They only lost 3 matches. They won all the rest of them. What is significant, though, is that Ridge Lovett got beat. His first loss of the season. He got beat by the 3rd-ranked kid from Arizona State. That's probably going to knock him. I can take a look here in just a few minutes. I'm going to guess that probably knocked him out of the number 1 ranked position. The thing that concerns me a little bit about that is that, there's the next step for the wrestling team is the Big Ten tournament.
Right.
And Lovett's got criteria over everybody else. So he'll be the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. But there's some tough kids. There's some real tough kids in the Big Ten. And, Lovett's not going to have a chance to even things out with that kid from Arizona State before the national tournament. So it would have been – I'm a little bit concerned if Ridge ends up on the bottom of the bracket. He was a finalist 2 years ago, so everybody knows that he's very capable of doing that. But I think he'd be a lot better positioned if he was the number 1 seed. And that's not out of the realm of the possibility because who knows I don't know what kind of losses, if any, the kid from Arizona State has. So that could impact the seeding as well. It'll be interesting to see.
Oh, good. We're 22 minutes in, and my next thing is wait a minute. We missed some. No, I didn't put them in here. Oh my God, who made these notes? Nebraska baseball went 3-1.
Yeah. Quite the weekend.
Okay, against competition they should have destroyed. Against good competition, how good is Grand Canyon U?
Grand Canyon's good. They've been a regional team. They've consistently improved. They got a beautiful facility down there, from what everybody says. They started the season off 4-0. They had beaten USC. I think they beat Ohio State. Georgetown. I'm trying to think who the other win was against. It was against another decent team. So, they were a high quality team. The thing that struck me though is, I was after the second game, the first game, Nebraska won, like 6-1, 6-2, 7-2. Geez, I should have written these down. I know game 2, they won 11-1. And so you're kind of sitting there, in a little bit of disbelief because, I said going into the weekend, if Nebraska came away 2-2, split in the weekend, I think you'd have to feel pretty good about things. But then the offense just was lights out. The pitching was really solid in those 2 games. But Grand Canyon, they weren't going to roll over either. They've got a lot of pride. They play with a lot of pride. And, Coach Bolt, during an interview after the game on Saturday, the third game, he said that there was an incredible amount of intensity in the stadium. And really. And he said, it was like a big time game. And the Grand Canyon guy had commented that the way that the teams were playing and the intensity in the games, he said it was more like a regional tournament game than the second series of the spring. So there was a lot going on.
There was a fight.
Well, I don't know.
Was it a fight? Was it a scuffle? Was it a throw down? What do they do?
I referred to it as a dust up.
Okay, a dust up.
I didn't. I did not have
a dust up on Saturday night.
I don't have ESPN Plus, so I didn't watch, and I'm just kind of going by what the announcers were saying, what little you've read about it. But there was some physicality. I don't know if any punches were thrown or not, but it was enough that tempers were flaring, and everybody got all chesty and. It was it kind of set the stage.
Chesty. They got chesty.
Puffing their chests out. That's what I mean by that.
Okay. Was this was Saturday? This was caused because the pitcher threw a guy out and then charged at home plate a little bit, screaming at him.
I don't know that he charged. Sunday? Everything I heard, he was he was pumping and just screaming and stuff, but he was going to his dugout and he was directing it to the dugout, but he was putting on quite the show after he struck out to Nebraska. He struck out Carey and Karen, and apparently he was really animated. and showing them up and that type of thing. And Will Bolt went out and talked to the umpire, and I think reminded him, well, yesterday you gave a warning to Brett Sears, or the home plate umpire the day before gave a warning to Brett Sears because of his, getting kind of pumped up
his
after
chestiness.
His chestiness. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay, and then Sunday, Nebraska gets out to an 8-1 lead.
8-1 lead.
8-1 lead. Looks like they're kicking ass. And then one inning and some poor pitching, and they come back Grand Canyon and tie the game on a grand slam where a kid carried the bat all the way to first base with him and then threw it in the air. I don't think that's a bat flip. I'm not a baseball. Baseball has all these unwritten rules. I didn't get to play baseball much when I was young. I never learned all these little things you're not supposed to do that make each other angry. They don't respect the game. And apparently you can't carry your bat to first base and throw it in the air like a wild person. And he was ejected, or as let's see here, Clay Castleter says, was there ejaculation for a bat flip? No, I meant ejection. Sorry. There was an ejection for the bat flip.
Yeah, there was
a toss, bat wing, zing in the air. So it became an interesting game. Then Nebraska, we scored 2 runs. This is where you talk about stealing home, man. You go, wow.
Yeah, okay, I kind of got lost, John. Yeah, it was an 8-8 game, and Nebraska didn't go down there to go 2-2. It was an 8-8 game, and we get the top of the lineup on base, and scored, on a ground ball, and then Dylan Carey stole home. Catcher was lazy, pitcher was lazy, took advantage of it and stole home. So
yeah, I mean, you got it. That's hilarious against a team that was like all showy.
Well, it is. That's what I think. And what I guess what was running through my head while you were chatting was, the Grand Canyon was pretty damn cocky, and kind of full of themselves. And, they were embarrassed in the first 2 games. I mean, they thought a lot of themselves. They were 4-0. Nebraska goes down there and just kicks their ass in the first few games. And so, they were embarrassed. And so, then they started acting like assholes, basically. So it was, it ended up being a good weekend, and good weekend for the Nebraska Cornhusker baseball team. I guess Fred's looking out for my future earnings. Fred Sacco says Todd's new calendar, chesty baseball players and the women who love them. So, Fred, that's a great idea. That would put some money in my pocket, I think.
Well, Linda Wilkins says, John, do you think one droopy boob would say to another droopy boob, remember when we were chesty? So the droopy boob saga continues.
Aaron was watching the game. So he says the pitcher in that game 3 was walking straight at Karen for a solid 4 or 5 steps.
I think he did. I think the videos are out there. I think Aaron posted one of them, but I think he walked toward Nebraska and then he kind of slowly turned toward his dugout. But apparently this is something you don't do.
No, you don't. And, that's one of the where the line kind of gets drawn in a lot of that. I mean, let's face it, heckling, chatter, needling, it's been part of baseball forever. But kind of one of those lines that you don't cross is you don't personalize it and you don't humiliate or show up your opponent. And
is that it? Really?
Pretty much. And if, those are lines. Now, do they get crossed? Yeah, they do. And then you get situations like occurred on Saturday. So yeah, like I said, I was going on about what I read. Bolt didn't make a big deal of it, at least publicly he didn't. But if that pitcher, I did check that. I went to their roster, and that isn't the first time that pitcher. There's on his player bio, they have about 6 different pictures of this kid. 3 of them, he's doing that kind of crap, after, when he's walking off or something like that. So half of the pictures of the guy is basically, being demonstrative and showboating and that type of thing. So I guess we saw what the kid's like.
Well, maybe okay. I guess I'm surprised there isn't more of that in baseball, especially college. But again, I don't know all these unwritten rules of things you're not supposed to do. I kind of do. I know that you're not supposed to carry the baseball bat all the way to first and throw it in the air. Sounds stupid. I mean, he got ejected after he made a huge play. I don't.
Grand slam home run and he's ejected.
Yeah, that's just, maybe come in and hit another one, you dumbass. God, what an idiot. Softball. Did you pay attention to softball?
I did the best I could. The softball team kind of struggled a little bit. They were at the Mary Nutter Classic. Okay, so people make what you want to of the Mary Nutter Classic. It's out in Cathedral City, California, which, if you don't know where that's at, it's in the desert near Palm Springs and Rancho Mirage. It is one of the bigger softball tournaments. They pull in a lot of top teams. Nebraska went 2-3 on the weekend, which, with that level of competition, that's not bad.
They beat Oregon. They blanked Oregon. Ranked Oregon.
They beat Oregon 6-0.
Future Big Ten member Oregon.
There you go. And they were ranked 23rd, so they knocked off a ranked team. They did get beat 3-2 by San Diego State, which is coached by former Nebraska softball player MJ Knighton. She was a third baseman that played for Coach Ravel a number of years ago. But they were 2-3. Right now, the softball team's sitting at 8-6. Billy Andrews has got 5 home runs now, the shortstop. She was the Big Ten Player of the Week. She's a heck of a player. With Jordy Ball sidelined, they're going to have to score runs. But it looks like the veteran pitchers on the team, are going to be able to hold up. The one gal that I think is really fun to watch is, her last name's Kinney. I think it's Kayla Kinney. Kinney's her last name. She played at Cedar Rapids Kennedy over in Iowa. I got to watch her play when she was in 8th grade, and she was already a player as an 8th grader. So she was injured, missed last year due to injuries, but she'll be probably the leader of the staff as we move forward. Now, hey, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Softball team hosts the Big Red Invite this weekend at Bowlin Stadium, and the weather doesn't look to be too bad towards the end of the week. So, softball fans, Nebraska fans, if they want to take an opportunity to get out and watch them play, they're playing they got Wichita State and Mizzou there to play against. And Mizzou's typically been a pretty good softball program. So, yeah.
Hey, Wichita State, didn't they just sweep Iowa in baseball or some damn thing?
Was it Wichita State or was it I know Wichita State was one of the teams that beat them. With Iowa's, scheduling and lining up all these high quality teams to play in the non-conference, and then they get swept on the weekend. I'm going to have to look that up and see who got them. But Wichita State was one of the teams that beat them this weekend. So,
So
Anyway,
Nebraska has a 4-game series coming up next in South Carolina against the College of Charleston.
College of Charleston is undefeated right now. They haven't been beaten. College of Charleston, not a school you hear of that often, other than occasionally you hear about them in the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness. They'll get in every once in a while, but they do have a very strong baseball program, and it'll be a challenge for the Nebraska team going down there to play. But it always is. The early part of the season, the northern teams are going to play in the South, and Coach Bolt's philosophy has been, he'd rather play 4-game series against a specific program than play in some of these tournaments or classics or whatever you want. It's hard to say no to that Shriners Classic in Texas. I mean, if you're invited to that, you're going to go because there's a lot of prestige in it. But Bolt's philosophy is let's go down and play a 4-game series and get a lot of players an opportunity to play. Now, I just looked this up. I guess well, geez, Iowa did get a victory against Loras last week. They took out all that frustration from 2 years ago, getting beaten by Division III Loras Dewhawks, and number 18 Iowa. They can be chesty because they put a 20-6 hurt on a Division III baseball team. That was back on February 20th. This last week, they were down in Jacksonville. They got beat 7-5 by Auburn. They got beat 12-9 by Virginia. Virginia's good baseball. That's a good baseball school. And then Wichita State beat them 12-6. And from everything we've heard, Wichita State, their players headed for the hills because of some disgruntlement about the whole coaching situation. So good for Coach Heller. Good for Coach Heller scheduling, such a high-powered set of non-conference foes that they're sitting at 3-4 right now. So they got beat by Lehigh, for God's sakes. Lehigh?
Lehigh is a fine Lehigh. They're a fine university, Todd, I'm sure.
For engineers.
Okay. Is there any other Nebraska sports we haven't covered? The way, thank you for all being
beach
patient.
volleyball. Beach volleyball. They're 5-0. And they, it's the schedule's going to get tougher. They've been playing home. They played an outdoors game. Nebraska played an outdoor beach volleyball game this last week because the weather was so nice. And did you know this? I didn't know this. Apparently, beach volleyball rules, you got to have 10 players to have a team. You got to have 5 pairs. And because of some injuries and some other things, there's some of the girls that play on the regular volleyball team that aren't playing beach. So they recruited a girl who's a student at Nebraska that plays on the club volleyball team. So they recruited her to come and play on the beach team. And so she's a beach-only player. And she's paired up with Maisie Boetinger. I don't know if I'm saying that last name right. But so, yeah, we've got a full-time beach player at the University of Nebraska.
As things should be.
And Allie Batenhorst is playing, even though she announced that she's leaving to USC. So,
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What else happened in the world of sports that might be of interest?
I've been pretty much focused on what's been going on with Nebraska. I haven't been paying attention. You got Tennessee won. They got a big. They won some kind of a lawsuit or preliminary findings or whatever you want to call it. All my legal expertise here, but apparently a judge ruled that the NCAA cannot regulate NIL money and student transfers. So I
I posted an article on Slack today, and it there's a lot of lawyers writing articles now about what's going on because all of this stuff, the future of college athletics is in the hand of lawyers. God help us all. I don't know. Maybe it should be in the hands of IT people, Todd. Yeah, we know how to do shit. But the article talked about, the employee issue. That it's only a matter of time before athletes are ruled to be employees. And it included a small bit that said if they are ruled to be employees, that they should be paid the same way that somebody on a work study would be at a university, and they may be entitled to back pay and overtime. And my whole thought about that is, if they're entitled to that stuff and it's back pay and it's overtime, I mean, this is really just saying we're not going to have Division 2 and 3 athletics because nobody can afford that shit. I mean, think about it.
Oh, I'm thinking.
I don't know what they think they're doing with this, but I know that the lawyers. Here's the thing: if you're a lawyer, well, I'm not going to apologize if you're a lawyer. I know that the lawyers are big on this should all comply with the law stuff, which is just really masking for I like billable hours. Listen, I like billable hours too. I bill by the hour. I'm in IT. I get it, but I think that really the lawyer I'm rapidly coming to the conclusion that all of this shit is happening not because it's more fair to the athletes, but because all the lawyers out there looked and said, well, hell, they're making enough money now. They got a big pile of money and we're going to go get some of it because, big giant piles of money, like $1 billion contract to the Big Ten over for their TV rights, that attracts lawyers. Big piles of money. It attracts lawyers and healthcare providers. Just it's like a giant cheese. If you were going to attack a big rat, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Just big pile of money, lawyers and healthcare providers would come running over there to take it all. Maybe they could fight each other.
Well, I think the bottom line is that nobody knows where this is all going to end up. And, I'm pretty certain that you're not going to put things back into the can, so to speak. Maybe if you have some kind of a contract with college players, you might be able to regulate something like transfers or whatever it might be. Excuse me. But NIL, that's not going back in the can. No. And, there's going to be some type of compensation for college athletes. Yeah. We just don't know what it's going to be.
Fred Sacco says back pay and overtime now. Get the fuck out. It won't just crush Division 2 and Division 3. That'll bury a lot of schools. This is a mess. It will bury a lot of schools. I think I think you're looking at with the demographics that are going on and the enrollment is dropping. I think you're looking at a lot of bankruptcies of schools across the nation. And I don't know, I realize that there's some people that are going to go good. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. It's certainly not a good thing it's not a good thing for smaller towns that might have a local university or college that goes bankrupt for their economies because small towns across America have already had their asses kicked into the ground.
Yep. I agree with you 100%.
Here's the other thing that I want people to think about, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm just bringing it up. If you are now getting paid as an employee, I mean, I would think that if you're getting paid to an employee, they can't give you a scholarship. And if they do give you a scholarship, that now it has to become taxable income, which means really, if you know what I mean, how many of these players are prepared for that? If that's the case,
how many, if you're going to pay them as an employee, what are those contracts going to include? Are those contracts going to include maintaining passing grades? Are they going to include attending class? What are they going to is there going to be an academic component to this? And I think it's going to take a lot of people that are a hell of a lot smarter than me to figure this all out, because I'll just college presidents over the last, and I know you're doing a historical perspective, but it seems to me that the big TV contracts have all happened in the last 25 to 30 years.
Yeah,
and that's been the difference maker. College presidents have sold their souls. They've sold their souls. And you don't have to point your fingers at anybody else. If you're one of those people that sees college sports going down the tubes, it's the college presidents that made those decisions. Those individuals that were hired to maintain the academic integrity of educational institutions. And let's think about that. Colleges were not founded to be sports leagues. That's not why they came about. So
that's true. They weren't. I think we might need doctors and engineers.
Part of me says, blow the whole goddamn thing up. And if the university,
not sure about more lawyers, I would think that there's enough. What the hell?
The University of Nebraska wants to have its name on a professional football team, so be it. But
okay, let's see. Fred, we did that one.
I'm going to put this one up. Linda Wilkins says, and there's another person brought this up as well. Thoughts on making March Madness a 96-team tournament? John?
Why? I mean, let's look this up. Number one, I realize why they want to do it. They're going to get more TV time. I've talked about this a lot. The value of sports is worth more than anything else on television. Okay, but let's look up something really quick.
Have you ever watched any of the play-in games?
I don't think I have.
I haven't. I never have watched one.
I'm looking for the last.
Well, John's looking it up. Highlander Gunn says, "Is Todd coming to movie night?" I haven't been invited, so I don't even know.
This Friday night.
This Friday night.
Yeah.
And we're watching Young Guns. Is that
we're
what
watching Young Guns? I have no idea why people want to do this, but I guess. Okay. Here's the 16 seeds as they stand right now in somebody's bracketology. Okay. Fairfield, South Dakota State, Eastern Kentucky, Norfolk State, Merrimack, and Grambling. And then, listen, I realized that last year a 16 seed beat Purdue, but in South Dakota State, God bless them. I at least know who that is. Grambling, John Robinson, didn't he coach there?
Not John Robinson.
Come on, what's the name?
Eddie
Robinson. Okay, if that's your 16 seeds, and then you're going to add what, 32 more teams to that? It makes no sense. It dilutes the product. But again, they can still add money for it.
Here's what's going on, though. The Power Six, isn't it in basketball? The Power Six conferences. Yeah,
I think it's Power Four.
No, I think it's 6 in basketball.
You're right. It is Power Six.
But the Power Six,
the Pac-12 for 1 year, and then it's going to go.
They're complaining that they don't get enough representation, and they get, nobody wants to watch the 7th and 8th place teams from the Big Ten or the ACC. They want to watch the Farley Dickinsons. They want to see, Florida Gulf Coast. They want to watch. Everybody loves the underdog. People get, all excited when you have those crazy games on the first weekend, when those lower seeded teams, rise up against the power conference teams and knock them off. And, that's not good business. That's not good business for the Power Six conferences. And, they've taken more of, the slots in the current configuration of the NCAA tournament. And if they expand to 96, they're going to have even more of them. I mean, the little guy is what conference out there, besides the Power Six, what conference gets more than one team in there? There's people out there that want to get rid of the automatic qualifiers.
Right.
Come on. I don't know.
I think it's dumb, but I understand why they want to do it. They want to make more money. There's advertising to sell. That's really it.
I gotta put a disclaimer out here. Aaron Kine says, I feel like Todd may just be making up some schools now. Next up, Van Down by the River Universe. I love that. No, I wasn't making them up. Loris College, the Loris Dewhawks, they pocketed quite a bit of Wolverton money. We had one graduate from there, so wasn't making anything up. Wasn't.
Okay. Well, he did that one. Let's see. Oh, the Aaron Rostowski. Maybe I said that right.
Oh, Jerky Wars.
The giant Jerky Wars of 2024 happened this weekend. When
I think we need to take a formal position on this.
1890 announced that they were selling corn-fed jerky. What the hell is it?
Yeah, I think that's right. Corn-fed jerky.
Okay. The 1890 initiative, the other nil provider, or the main nil provider run by the Peed family, announced this weekend that they are selling jerky to make money to give away to nil. And this is in direct competition with pipeline jerky. And I guess the thing I tweeted was, there are 230 million products they could have come out with, and they chose jerky. And now I understand that maybe the Peed family, apparently they're very wealthy. I don't know much about them. But apparently they own some kind of jerky processing company or something.
They own the Mercado. They have their own slaughterhouse on 84th Street. Piedmontese beef, that's their big thing. They're putting a restaurant in Omaha too. And I agree with James Boardman. Circle jerkies. I tell
you know what? I'm thinking I'm going to release my jerky with that. Is going to
circle jerkies.
The coordination circle jerky. God only knows what the flavors are going to be, you filthy people. But yes, the great jerky wars occurred this weekend, and they're starting this weekend. And I guess, my formal position is I'm going to support pipeline jerky because I know that, they started and the stuff goes to linemen. We all love linemen. I like their pork jerky, the honey mustard. And I normally don't like honey mustard anything. I wish that they would release like a habanero one, but I'm guessing, most people don't want habanero jerky that, cleans out your system. That's what it would do. It would clean out your system. And then, can't the Peeds do popcorn? Couldn't they sell like a popcorn drive? Have a popcorn drive? How about this? How about a cornbread mix? They could do both sweet and non-sweet, depending upon which side of the cornbread, religious faction you fall into. They could do bread mixes. They could do so many things with corn, I guess. They could make little cinnamon bears with like corns that look like something else. They look like corns, but something else. And we could make fun of them for that.
I think
high fructose corn syrup in them.
John, for next week's podcast,
yeah,
your homework assignment is to investigate the Peed family a little bit.
Oh my God.
I'm not. If I head down that road, I'm going to say things that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to bite my tongue.
Well, Todd.
Easier that way.
Yeah, probably not good for me either, because I do have to investigate things sometimes.
Clay Kesselder says the Duke basketball player hurting his leg from a kid storming the court. That got a lot of publicity. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about some of this stuff. court storming, you knock off a good team and you have to storm the court. I don't know. But, what's concerning me, I mean, it concerns me that a player got hurt. It concerns me that when Ohio State stormed the court against Iowa, that Caitlin Clark tried to draw a foul during the court storming.
Right.
But it really puts the visiting team in a tough spot. And
it does.
I don't know. For that reason, I have a problem with it because, when you're the visiting team, you shouldn't have to deal with that crap. You shouldn't have to, fear a bunch of maniacs, running at you and then, surrounding you and making it difficult for you to get off the floor.
But nobody did that. Nobody has ever. Court storming has been going on for years. Okay. And if you go back and look at the angles on the flip, what's his name? Kyle Flipowski, like the Zapruder film, you can see that it looks like he tried to trip that kid, and that's when he hurt his leg.
Okay, I haven't paid any attention.
Oh my God, yes. It's a Zapruder film thing. It one thing, first time you look at it, you go, wow, that kid ran right into him. But if you you slow it down, you start looking at the angles, he tried to trip that kid and push him at the same time. And here's the thing with it. Jay Bilas or Bilas, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. And then who was the other one? Seth Davis have both come out and said that they think that people should be arrested for court storming, which is about that's just, I mean, come on. I'm old and angry old man, get off my lawn, but it's been going on for a long time. It's going to end, though. I can tell you this. It's going to end. And you know why it's going to end, Todd?
Why is it going to end?
It's going to end because now of nil, you're going to have a value placed on basketball players. And whenever you place a value on a human being and people pay a lot of money for human beings, they become an asset that needs to be protected.
Well,
you look at the NFL. Here's my NFL comparison. You look at the NFL and all of the quarterback roughing calls that are so weak now. Why is that? It has bullshit. The NFL says, well, this is a player safety thing. That's bullshit. It isn't. They don't give a shit about player safety. If they had 50 guys willing to go out there and get killed every game and be paid for it, they'd go ahead and do that. They do that because they paid Patrick Mahomes a shit ton of money to be on the field, and they don't want to pay that money for him being injured. And it's going to happen the same thing with basketball players in the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, Minnie says court storming is awesome. It's the American way. So
yeah, it's the American way, Todd. You commie bastard.
We're going to get rid of the American way. I'm going to put this back up. Don Dre says, I thought a scholarship, room and board was a good deal for playing a sport they love. Don, I agree with you 100%. It's unfortunate that that's not the way it is anymore.
Well, when you're bringing in billions of dollars, come on.
I completely understand it. The players have been exploited. They've been exploited for years. From the first time that, somebody sold a number 30 jersey that said Rozier on the back, and Rozier didn't get a dime for it. Yeah, I understand that.
Is there anything else?
I'm kind of I've kind of run out, but you know what? We did better this week than we did last week.
We did. We at least, I think that's because I was a little fresher this week.
I don't know what this means. Tiger Shark Diver says Todd is a Russian wrestler.
I don't either. Maybe it's a reference to like Rocky. Didn't he fight a Russian guy?
Well, yeah. Fred Sanko says Todd's Russian sickle clothesline was the scourge of the Midwest for years. Oh man.
Well, here's the thing. Court storming is the American way, but it's probably going to be replaced by the other bigger American way, and that is money. So
protect your assets.
Okay.
Well,
is that it? We are past an hour.
I think that probably is about it. So
okay, Friday night we're gonna have a movie night. I guess we should if we figure out a time. Friday night we are going to watch the Young Guns together. I have 7 p.m. written down on my calendar. 7 p.m. Central, just to make sure. I really don't understand the fascination with Young Guns, but apparently I said I hated the movie. Here's something that interesting happened over the weekend to me. I watched Gravity. If you remember the movie with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Okay, I watched that and I thought it was really good. And I said to my wife and I have serious problems watching movies together because I will watch anything, especially if it's stupid. And she does not. She has a high bar. And I said, after I watched it, I said, we should have watched that together. And she said, well, we did once. And I thought, fuck, I don't remember anything about that. I don't remember any of it. So, it was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of a punch in the face to me that happens sometimes, but that's my knowledge or my memory of some of the movies I've seen is absolutely zero. Young Guns, I think I said I hated that movie, but I don't even remember why. So, okay, there you go. Good night, Todd.
Good night, John.